Now, Joe Rogan may be one of the most listened to media personalities on the planet. It's hard to make an apples to apples comparison of songs to podcasts, but consider the reach of Spotify. Before Neil Young pulled his music, he reached about 6 million listeners there each month. Joni Mitchell reached about 3.7 million on Spotify. Meanwhile, the Joe Rogan Experience gets up to 11 million listeners per episode. And some episodes are 3 or 4 hours long. So what's behind his appeal? And how might he revise his approach to touchy topics? Let's continue now with Irshad Manji. Her books include Don't Label Me, an incredible conversation for divided times, and she is the founder of the Moral Courage College. I'm so glad you're with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Joshua. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and I wanted to talk to you about this because, complex and difficult conversations are right up your alley. I wonder, first of all, what your sense is of why Joe Rogan has so much appeal. He does have a large following, and he's had some standout interview moments, including when he interviewed Senator Bernie Sanders in 2019. Here is a piece of that interview. Watch.
Why do we have lobbyists? Why is it legal for someone to spend exorbitant amounts of money to affect our civilization, to affect the way our culture works?
All right, now you're taking us into a whole new area.
Yeah.
All right, let's look. All right, let me detour and I'll come back.
Please do.
All right. Today in America, you got 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of the American society.
The real problem seems to be that they have this strategy of unlimited growth. Not that they're not providing medication that people need to save their lives. I mean, it's obviously important to have pharmaceutical companies.
Of course.
Right. So there's good that they provide, but the business aspect of it is where the problem lies, right?
Right.
So moments like that, I think, Irshad, are one of the reasons why Joe Rogan has the following that he has.
Well, it's certainly one of the reasons. I think, though, Joshua, the biggest reason, and again, there are others, but the biggest reason is what might be called negative polarization. And what that means is when people take a side and feel passionately about it, not because they like their own side, but because they really hate the other side. And I think that is what applies in the case of Joe Rogan's appeal. People love the fact that he makes the establishment, quote unquote, squirm. They love that, he punctures their premises. And that doesn't mean that even most of his audience takes anything he says seriously. I'm not even so sure they give a damn about what he says in terms of his facts or lack thereof. I think what they care about more often than anything else is how angry he makes the people whom they want to see angry.
I wonder what you think in terms of the net effect of that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong in a First Amendment, land of the free kind of a sense with people outside the mainstream skewering people in ivory towers or limestone or whatever this tower is made out of. You know what I'm saying? Like the idea inherently of someone who's outside of the mainstream, bringing contrasting contrarian opinions can be good. So it seems like a Joe Rogan can have a useful function as long as the information is reliable.
Now, there you go again, Joshua, as long as the information is reliable.
I know.
And I hear why, as a journalist, you say that. The thing is, Joe Rogan is not a journalist. He does not claim to be a journalist. He's an entertainer. And boy, does he ever entertain. So in that sense, he, lives up to his mandate. When people accuse him of only falsifying information or spreading lies, or as I read in a newsletter from MoveOn.org today, that he's transphobic and a white supremacist, all of that is exactly the apoplexy that Rogan's audience loves to see, riled up in liberals and progressives. And they don't even mind if some of that apoplexy is shared by conservatives. They love Joe Rogan because of what he inflicts on the people whom his audience believes control the narrative.
One of the things he said in his Instagram video today is that he's going to do more work in terms of doing his research, getting his facts right whenever he has conversations about controversial topics. One of the conversations he had related to COVID went viral because his guest tried to fact check him in real time, and he resisted the fact checking until he kind of couldn't resist it anymore. Here's what happened.
For young boys in particular, there's an adverse risk associated with the vaccine. It's like a 2 to 4-fold increase in the instances of myocarditis.
Yes, but you know what?
Hospitalization.
You know that there's an increased risk of myocarditis among that age cohort from getting COVID as well, which exceeds the risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true. No. I don't think it's true that there's an increased risk of myocarditis from people catching COVID that are young versus increased risk of myocarditis from the vaccine.
No, there is. There's both.
Well, let's look that up because I don't think that's true. Myocarditis is more common after COVID-19 infection than vaccination. But is this with children?
So sure enough, when he was fact-checked, he kind of resisted the fact-check. But I hear you, Irshad, in terms of Joe Rogan meeting the brief of what he purported to do. He never purported to be a journalist. He's only ever purported to basically be a talk show host, and he's sort of met the brief. Before I have to let you go, I wonder what the path forward is with this. I do not like telling other people what they can say. Because if there's room for me, there ought to be room for them. He hasn't claimed to be a journalist. And yet you have people like me and those of us who work for the Peacock who are tearing our hair out trying to be heard and just say, no, really, there are plenty of places to get good, reliable, factual information.
Yeah.
What do you see as the path forward, especially for those folks who like the skewering, who like the apoplexy, as you put it, that Joe Rogan can sometimes evoke?
May I be so bold, Joshua, as to suggest that I think that's the wrong question? Let me explain. The path forward is not really for Joe Rogan and his audience. The path forward that we need to talk about is for journalists like you, as you say, people who abide by the facts or strive to, and who are tearing your hair out to try and get heard. You know, the clip that you just ran of Rogan actually in real time getting fact checked and then backing claimed is precisely one of the things that his audience loves about him, is that he's willing to go there. He's willing to be challenged in real time. And as a result, if he is found to be wrong, he will more often than not acknowledge it or go deeper for more nuance. And as somebody who does a 2 to 3 hour experience every day, he has that kind of time, whereas in a 3-minute segment, you don't. So here's the path forward for mainstream media who are not as trusted as Rogan is by his audience. Allow yourselves to be fact-checked in real time. See what happens. And if you have to say you're wrong, acknowledge it. Don't make it as difficult as passing an act of parliament. When you and your colleagues become as transparent as Rogan's audience believes he is, that may be when you start getting the audience that you believe you deserve.
I hear you on the transparency piece, and I think there's another conversation for another night about the work that you do and the way that we talk through those especially difficult, complicated cultural areas and bring transparency to that. But I do appreciate you talking us through this tonight, and I hear you in terms of transparency and how we do what we do. Irshad Manji, it's good to see you again. Thank you very much.
Hope to see you again soon, my friend. Thank you.